We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.
Social justice, power hour, power hour, power hour. Social justice, power hour, power hour, power hour.
Good evening to our friends on the East Coast, good afternoon to our friends on the West Coast, and good in-between time to our friends in the in-between spaces, which we all find ourselves more and more these days. Welcome to the Social Justice Power Hour. Welcome to the Bayard-Rustin Center for Social Justice virtual headquarters. My name is Robt Seda-Schreiber. I'm the chief activist here and your host for this evening, as I have been for over 200 broadcasts of the Power Hour. And we are so thrilled and honored to have you with us tonight in community and to have our guest with us tonight, Talia Lavin. And happy first night of Hanukkah to our Jewish community, our Jewish friends and our allies and our family. Let us all hope that that bringing of light encompasses all of us and all of our community. And in that respect, we know that these holidays are a difficult time for many of us, and we are going to be here for you. We have always opened our doors on the holiday season, on Christmas Day especially, where we welcomed over 1,000 folks into our physical headquarters in Princeton, New Jersey. We know we can't do that this year, and we're heartbroken, but we're going to be there for you. We're going to be there for our community, and I want to announce to you that we're going to have a holiday safe space spectacular a couple of nights before the holidays, on the 23rd. We're going to have fabulous guests. We're going to have community members. We're going to have singing and dancing and wonderful festivities for those of you that need a place to be, and for those of you who want to provide a place to be for others. We'll be together in community as we always are. And on Christmas Day, we're actually going to come to you with a holiday sing-along as well. With David Brahinsky, renowned folk musician, we'll be doing songs for our Jewish friends, for our Christian friends, Muslim, Ramadan, Kwanzaa, all the holidays that we are celebrating year long, whatever it takes. We're going to be here for you so we can be strong together as family, chosen or otherwise. So please join us for those two special events for the holiday season. And then I want to share with you, I know that Talia has a lot of fans and friends and family tuning in tonight. I can see the numbers exploding already. Thank you all for being with us. So if you don't mind, I want to share with you some things that are coming up on the Power Hour. So hopefully you'll join us. We are here 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, every weeknight, as we have been. 200 some odd shows, many of them very odd indeed. And we're always thrilled to welcome so many folks to our virtual headquarters. So please join us for some of our upcoming shows. Tomorrow night especially. Tomorrow night we have Michael Penn, a acclaimed musician who released his first song in 15 years, just about a month before the election, and has put all the proceeds for that song to the Georgia runoff in January. He is an incredible musician, he is an incredible activist, and we are incredibly honored that he's joining us tomorrow night for his only interview about his new music and about what he's doing. So please join us for this momentous occasion tomorrow night. And then coming up in the future of the show, we have Steve Brodner. I'm sure you know his work. He's an illustrator. He does The Greater Quiet on The Nation magazine. Incredible work for years and years and years, and a thrilling activist himself. Frederick Joseph is going to be with us. His book, The Black Friend on Being a Better White Person, was just released last week. It's a New York Times bestseller now, and he is an incredible friend to the Bayard-Rustin Center, and we cannot wait to have him back on the show. Zain Judakar is going to be with us, wonderful transgender author. Again, their book was runaway success. We're looking forward to having that conversation. You all know this lovely gentleman, Billy Eichner, will be with us. We're looking forward to that. With the pandemic, we have not had Billy on the street, so we're going to have Billy not on the street, but on the Power Hour. So please join us for that as well. Franklin Leonard is going to be with us, creator of The Blacklist. Gosh, I'm so excited about this. Pete Souza is going to be with us, White House photographer under 2 tenures at the White House with Ronald Reagan and Barack Obama. He'll be bringing some behind-the-scenes stories from his favorite photographs. You can see his great film, The Way I See It, on MSNBC now. Please do. It's a treat. Anoa Changa will be with us. Anoa Changa is an incredible electoral justice reporter. She has boots on the ground in Georgia. No one better, and she will be here the night before the Georgia Senate election. And we are so incredibly excited to have her here. She will give us the skinny on what we need to know going into that next day. And as I said, no one better. Peniel Joseph, Dr. Joseph, is not only the author of The Sword and the Shield, which exposes the false dichotomy between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, he's also a board member here at the center and an incredible presenter. We cannot wait to have that conversation. And finally, we just solidified this yesterday. Gary Trudeau will be with us. Doonesbury just turned 50. They have this beautiful collector's edition, and pretty psyched to have this conversation. But most of all, so excited about our guest tonight. This is something special, folks, and thanks for being with us. It's really hard to really sum all this up, but maybe best to start with New York Times. New York Times said, Talia Lavin wants to fight Nazis, and this being 2020, there is no shortage of them. It is indeed no coincidence that we are welcoming her on this evening, the first night of Hanukkah, celebrating the Festival of Lights, gathering a community with family to cast out darkness with light. Talia Lavin, a Jewish woman and therefore a prime target for misogynist, anti-Semitic white supremacists, wanted to examine why these groups exist and how they inspire acts of domestic terrorism, and did so in a series of articles and investigative pieces. And in response, white supremacists sent threats of violence to her and her family to scare her into silence. But instead of stopping, she reinforced her efforts. For close to a year, Talia went undercover in white supremacist online communities, creating fake personas that will gain her access to the dark reaches of the internet, normally off limits to her, a Jewish woman. That research laid the groundwork for her phenomenal book, Culture Warlords: My Journey into the Dark Web of White Supremacy. Talia's book is more than just a primer for understanding online hate, however. It is also a call to action. As per Talia herself, quote, I hope that this book is a weapon in the arsenal of people who want to combat this ideology, because this movement's sole goal is violence. There's no benign white power, no matter what those people try to say with the cooperation of the media, which has proven to be entirely too credulous with white supremacists again and again. This is a cancerous movement, and one that must be fought with everything we have. It is a pleasure and an honor on this night of all nights to welcome Talia Lavin to our Social Justice Power Hour. Talia, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Hello, and happy Hanukkah, everybody. I hear there's a holiday coming up called Christmas, but I've never heard of it, and I don't know how to pronounce it. So I'm just here enjoying Hanukkah. I'm menorahs in the window, and I'm feeling very pissed off about the world right now. I don't know about you.
Well, we welcome you to our community, and we're going to talk about that tonight. And you just summed up everything that made me so happy that we're going to share this time tonight. I'm really inspired by the fact that you did this horrendous thing, this incredibly scary, horrific, death-defying thing. But you also did it with somehow maintaining your sense of humor. And you just showed that to us tonight. You just showed, like, in the first 30 seconds of your time here, you showed us why I am so thrilled to have you. So that's my first question. I guess that's where we start, right? How did you do that? Because we'll talk about the bad stuff, we'll talk about the scary stuff, we'll talk about all that because we need to expose it. But how did you maintain your sense of humor throughout it all? That's what is so inspirational to me.
Well, it's an old Jewish self-defense mechanism. And I think without gallows humor, without solidarity and camaraderie and the ability, I mean, it's hard sometimes to keep both concepts in your head, that Nazis are often ridiculous and that the danger they represent is genuine. And I think sometimes people fall into the trap of sort of saying, well, all we have to do is make fun of them and they'll go away. And I don't think that's true. But I do think finding the humor in these sort of dark situations can be a way of getting through to the other side. And there's a really long tradition of that, certainly in the Jewish community, but I think in sort of freedom fighters writ large, where you find moments of humanity and connection through laughter, even in the darkest of days and places and times.
And I think that there's a way, if you were to just to push the scale a little bit, there's something to be said about your connection to Mel Brooks. And Mel Brooks did the same thing in a much more, lampoony, broad way, right? But he exposed in his own way in his movies, and tempered off later on in his career, but early on, there was some really strong stuff there. Did you find ever a connection to that?
Well, I really loved Robin Hood Men in Tights as a kid. I actually saw that way before the Kevin Costner movie that he was lampooning, and then I watched the Kevin Costner movie and I was like, oh, this is a shot for shot parody. But I loved Mel Brooks as a kid. Yeah, I think looking into the face of darkness and finding ways to make fun of it is a skill to try and cultivate as an activist sometimes.
Yeah, and it's so important because otherwise we would lose our freaking minds, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm power houring with I have a drink, so I might be drinking from it as we go on, but don't worry, I'm stone cold sober and furious. So that's my mood going.
Excellent. We applaud that. All of that. We applaud all of that. Let me ask you this. Right off, help our community understand, what are we missing about this that's imperative? What's the one thing that we need to know that we're not fully aware of about what's happening online and what's happening in this dark and dreadful community?
I think the one message that I try to bring to people is like, I think this is less urgent for members of marginalized communities who sort of understand it instinctually, but particularly when it comes to sort of white liberals and particularly those who are more comfortable economically, there's this tendency to say, oh, these violent white supremacists, they're sort of poor, they're toothless, they're cletus in their mother's basement, masturbating all the time. Or they're inhuman, they're monstrous, they're completely ununderstandable, and inexplicable. And I think both of these approaches amount to a kind of absolution and self-exclusion for the white liberal and the white moderate from the phenomenon of white supremacy's metastasis. The truth is, the people that I talked to, the people that I was undercover and sort of looking at, I mean, there was no socioeconomic bracket that they all comfortably fit into, no geographic locale that encompassed all of them. They're not all in the Deep South. There's lots in California, and there's lots in New York, and there's lots everywhere in between. And they are human beings, right? So there's sort of a banality of radicalization where you talk to people and they're expressing, at the same time, their absolute loathing of anyone with a different skin color or set of religious beliefs, and then talking about dinner. These are human people, and I don't think their humanity absolves them of their choices to engage in violence, to encourage violence. To me, it's precisely their humanity that condemns them, that they've made this series of hundreds of human choices to arrive where they are, which is apologists and propagandists and practicers of white supremacist terror. So it's like, these are people. They're just and they're not uniquely disadvantaged. They're people, and they could be in your town and your school and your HOA. And, you can't just dismiss them as an alien phenomenon. You have to work to combat and defend your community from this ideology.
And there's so many threads I want to pull at about that. One of the things you said at the outset of that remind me so much of what Martin Luther King said. What was one of the worst enemies of the movement was the white moderate, was the person who didn't understand by inaction, by assuming things about, that it was these caricatures and not usually in the middle of the road. It's not the Cletuses, as you write about, right? It's not these masterminds. It's all these folks who are brought into the movement because they're lonely, because they're brought up with hate, because their hate is then allowed or even championed, especially by our current outgoing administration. Instead of casting light into darkness, kind of brought us back into full darkness. So how much of that informed the work that you did? How much leeway was coming up from higher up that we haven't seen before in such a broad and powerful context?
I'm not sure I fully understood your question there. Can you hit me again? Sure. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Maybe I lost the thread of it. I feel like with our current administration, our outgoing administration, there was a tendency to not only allow this hate to fester, but to champion it, and from the podium, from the highest office in the land, to give power to it. So when you were doing all of this work and being undercover, did you find that folks were more apt to come out of their dark corners because they were emboldened by what they saw in the highest reaches of our country?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think everything that I did was against the backdrop, the sort of thrumming, hideous backdrop of the Trump administration. And it's interesting. It's like his election was a massive shot in the arm to the movement, the white supremacist movement. I mean, you had new groups springing up overnight, like mushrooms after a flood. Had this tremendous sense of adrenaline of we're winning, finally we're politically represented in the highest office of the realm. And that's been true to a large extent. I mean, when you look at Stephen Miller and his, documented links to the white supremacist movement, when you look at, even in its last days, like the Trump administration is elevating white supremacists like Darren Beattie to these, administration positions. That being said, it's a little more complex than simply every white power Hitler worshipping Nazi is a Trumpist. There's certainly more Trumpists than they are connected to any other political figure, but a lot of them have become sort of disillusioned with electoral politics in totality. They find Trump to have not been extreme enough for their tastes, not racist enough for their tastes, and they've sort of moved on to a philosophy called accelerationism, this idea of wanting to hasten collapse and create race war and civil war in order to build a pure Aryan ethno-state from the ruins. And they sort of view Trump as a puppet of the Jews in his administration. They view his close relationship with Israel as proof of that. And so, the sort of specific Nazi communities that I was looking at have a complicated relationship with him. But that being said, since the election, of course, my book was published before the election, but since the election, it's been interesting watching the total blurring and erasure of the lines between the radical right and the mainstream Republican Party. When you're talking about, as of today, nearly a quarter of the House of Representatives, about half the Republican caucus, therein is filing, amicus briefs to overturn the election. When you have 17 attorneys general of the United States, filing suit to overturn the results of 4 states. When you have, these constant calls for civil war, armed protests at, the Michigan Secretary of State's house, at the Idaho Board of Health, their homes, armed men gathering around these people's homes. I think we're really at a very frightening moment, a real precipice that feels like a prelude to civil war in its way. And I'm not just talking about the erosion of democracy. I'm talking about a cost in human lives and a rhetoric on the right that's become apocalyptic and has nowhere else to go except, embracing vigilante murderers like Kyle Rittenhouse and talking about their political opponents as satanic pedophile cannon fodder in a just war for a white Christian country. I mean, we're at a really dark crossroads right now, and maybe I sound like a Cassandra, and I would so much rather be wrong than be proven right in any of these respects. But I really do feel we're at a very dark moment.
Well, no, I mean, that's why we're so thrilled to have you tonight, because it is difficult to hear, it is difficult to say, it is difficult to parse, it's difficult to be in community and have to address these things, but we do. And no one better than you've been in the thick of it. So let's go back to that. This journey started, how did you get interested in this subject at first? Like, how did this become your touchstone? What about it was initially sparked your first investigations, your first stories? And then how did it grow from there? What did it evolved into you then with this year-long journey into, I can imagine because I've read the book, but how did it start? What was your radioactive spider bite that allowed you the secret origin to become this warrior of exposing all of these white supremacist rings?
Well, I think for me, like a lot of people, Unite the Right in Charlottesville was a moment. Specifically, it was the chance of Jews will not replace us that really, I had been someone socially engaged and engaged in politics, but it was that sort of very concrete evidence of violent anti-Semitism that made it feel personal for me. I had been experiencing, anti-Semitism online for a while. My first job in journalism was, at a Jewish newswire where part of my job was moderating comments. And I noticed a lot of our traffic was coming from Nazi sites. I noticed that a lot of our comments were violently anti-Semitic, but it was sort of that concrete, Jews will not replace us, walking under Nazi flags that really, it felt like a belated wake-up call. And my first investigation was about the neo-Nazi website, the Daily Stormer, and its web hosting, sort of who was enabling it. So my first exploration was not just about neo-Nazis online, but also tech companies and their roles, enabling and facilitating the spread of that kind of genocidal propaganda. And after I published that story, the neo-Nazis started noticing me and wrote about me. And I'm still the first Google search result for greasy fat kike, every girl's dream. And so, having the abyss gazing at me, I decided to double down and just keep writing and eventually expand that into a book.
And for those of you just joining us or unaware, this is the book that we're talking about tonight, Culture Warlords, My Journey into the Dark Web of White Supremacy, by our guest tonight, Talia Lavin. And our wonderful volunteer, Chris, is in the comments section giving you a link to our bookshop.org link to our Power Hour authors. All the authors that have been in the Power Hour, we want to support them. So please go. We love bookshop.org because it supports independent bookstores. This book is an incredibly difficult book. It's an incredibly important book. There are moments of great humor in it, as we've been sharing, but it's something that we should all have on our shelves because it is something that is a dramatic snapshot of what we're seeing right now, and also a very important look into what our future may be if we are not cognizant of the things that are happening, especially in the deepest, darkest parts of the web. But not only that, right? Because it is, as you said, when you worked, and these people pop up all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, it's a perfect holiday gift for Hanukkah or Christmas. It's red. It looks pretty on a shelf. And I wrote it and I worked really hard on it. So, there you go. It's actually on back order on Bookshop. But you can get it from your local indie bookstore. I know a lot of bookstores are suffering right now, so, just check out the local indie in your area. And it's also available as an audiobook and an ebook. And I read the audiobook out loud. So if you think my voice isn't grating tonight, try listening to it for 8 hours in a row. But yeah, no, it is a dark book in that I kind of looked into different communities and of extremists and different aspects of the history of white supremacy and different ways that it manifests online. But I think overall, it's sort of more of a call to arms than anything else, where it's like, here's who the enemy is, and here's how we fight back, or here's who's fighting back. And I did find great hope in the camaraderie of fellow anti-fascists. And, I liked being able to write without feeling the need to impose a false sense of balance on myself. I think my most natural mode of writing is the Jeremiad. And, while there's a lot more footnotes than a book-length screed would require, a lot of the book was written from a place of anger. And I think contrary to what a lot of people believe, anger has its uses.
What doesn't appear in the book, to my reading, is the fear that I think most of us would feel. I mean, I think that was it your anger that allowed you to power through and to know? Was it a sense of forgive me, but righteousness? Because but was it a sense of being on the right that powered you through? What was it that allowed you to do this, to take this journey that many of us would turn back at various points from where you were, and you just kept going?
Well, to be candid, I know that your community is one that's pretty open about mental health struggles. So I suffer from panic disorder. I'm actually pretty severely agoraphobic. It can be a challenge for me just to get around the block some days. And in a lot of ways that my life is quite limited by fear. And so, and in this arena, online, and there are some aspects of the reporting of the book that I did in person, but in this arena, I felt I was able to push past whatever fear I felt. I'm not going to say I'm a fearless person because I'm not. And in fact, my life is in many ways very shaped by fears that I feel. But I am a very stubborn person and I am a very angry person. And the more I read these, right-wing chats about wanting to kill Black people, wanting to kill Jews, wanting to kill, trans people, kill feminists, the angrier I got, and I felt that anger led to determination, and then both of those were stronger than the fear.
Well, first, I want to thank you so much for having the faith and the trust in us to share that. And I know it's difficult. I will share that I suffer from anxiety, and I know that it's so debilitating. Sometimes it's so difficult, but there are also sometimes that it gives me more impetus to power through something. So I feel like when I read this that I can sense that. I can sense that these other fears you have, these other things that are difficult in your life, allowed you the strength to do what you did here.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about having a panic disorder is you're an expert at facing fear. You do it every day, even mortal fear. Like, it's kind of silly, but when going to the grocery store sometimes makes you feel like you're gonna die, you become a little bit more cavalier. Um, but yeah, I've had, the FBI come to my house to tell me I have rape and death threats against me. I've, had, gotten in the mail, hate mail from Nazis. But at the end of the day, it's also like there's something liberating about finding a cause that you feel it would be worthy to give your life to. I would much rather do it by living and writing, but if it comes to the worst, I think speaking out against Nazis in America is not the worst reason to have to cut things short and make a dramatic exit stage left. So that's where I land on that. I think everyone who engages with the far right as an activist or as an author, a journalist, has these thoughts, has had to think about some scenarios, has faced threats, and without undue bravado. I think I'm more like, if that's what it comes to, it was worth it.
Well, it's worth it because the book is so powerful and has gotten such great acclaim, deservedly so. And I think that it's affecting so many people. It's one of those books that doesn't just preach to the converted. It is gaining so much platform because it's so important. And I think that you bring such a powerful voice to it through your struggles personally and through your struggles that you journeyed through in this year of doing this incredibly difficult, terrifying work. I have to ask you, how did your family react? How did your family feel about what you were doing? And in that, how much could you share with them while you were doing it?
Um, uh, well, I shared a lot with them. Sometimes they were just like, "Hey, can you find another beat?" They go, "What are you gonna write about something else?" Because I did have moments when I really sank down a bit into, a bit of a depression, and I really struggled to kind of keep my feet on the ground instead of what felt like sort of being immersed in this bell jar of hate. But my family's been amazingly supportive. My parents let me post up on their couch whenever I need to. I'm very, very lucky to have them. And it's not the most conventional career choice to go into journalism in an age when journalism has been so racked by financial upheaval. And I'm very grateful to have had their support all along. And, my grandparents are Holocaust survivors, were Holocaust survivors. Like it's a very direct link in my family. And that's definitely something that motivated me in my work. I thought about them. I thought about the lives they'd led and the truncated lives of the people they loved. The ways that like what they had survived was rooted in an ideology that was in some ways is still thriving. And I felt that with that as my family's past, it was my duty to stand up and to speak, and sometimes to conceal who I was in order to do so.
So you go from writing these articles, writing these investigative pieces, to being threatened and saying, you know what, fuck all y'all, I'm not stopping. In fact, you're going to prompt me to go further and deeper and stronger and really make your lives a huge mess. And you exposed all of these things, right? Was there a moment for you? Was there an epiphany when you said, "This is what I'm going to do. This is crystal to me now," or was it more of an evolution as the work progressed?
Well, I just felt, that there was more to say than could be encompassed in 1,200 words. And, some of it is just the business where I had an agent reach out to me, and I felt like, okay, I was a freelancer. I'll see if I can write a book. And it was definitely a big challenge to myself, and it was a long time in producing. It drew on reporting I'd done years, but it I think it was very gratifying to be able to tell a story at greater length than kind of the hot takes of the web allow. And I'm so glad that it's reached people. And um, I think the benefit of telling a story with a main character, right? Even if the main character is yourself, and even if the journey is from like a leftist journalist to a radicalized anti-fascist, um, telling a story that was honest about the ways this work affected me, and the ways it was rooted in my own history. Um, I think that gives people a window and gives people an emotional connection to things that otherwise feel very abstract. Um, and what I wanted to do was just be able to tell this story and bring this information to as many people as possible. So it is a book written for sort of a larger market, maybe people who aren't subject matter experts in this field, and don't know the name of every Nazi, but who want to learn more and who want to fight. I tried to really instill a bit of a fighting spirit into the readers of the book, and I hope that I succeeded in that.
Oh, that's 100. It's so crystal in the book, and that's why I'm trying to understand, because I don't think I have that reserve, and I don't know many folks who do. So I just to me. So I guess, what was one of the most surprising things that you found along the journey as you were doing this, as you were undercover and you were, ex- not exposing yet, because you had to take all this time before you could expose. And, how many showers did you have to take doing this? And, how many moments were you just, I feel so overwhelmed and so dirty and so, just enveloped in all of this? What was your release for that?
There were definitely months at a time where it just felt really difficult. Like I was living these double, triple, quadruple lives, pretending to be so many people at once. And I'm like, where's Talia in all this? Like, is that just another layer in the Matryoshka doll? Um, I don't know that I had a great release, but I did feel a sense of relief once I turned in the manuscript, and I had to sort of learn how to live again. It was like, it felt very stark, like how to wake up to the fact that there's still goodness on earth. And I cooked a lot. Cooking is a big, uh, uh, grounding mechanism for me. It's my number one love language, is cooking for people I love. And I cooked a lot of Jewish food, kishka and cholent, and
Kugel? Was there Kugel?
oh yeah,
All right.
potato kugel. It felt defiant and delicious, and um, being someone that people want dead and living deliciously is its own kind of way of reclaiming your life and reclaiming your mind. Of course, I'm still engaged in this kind of work, and I have at least one undercover persona that's still going in the militia movement, because I think that's really an arena that I'm watching. It has sort of more of a overlap with mainstream MAGA, but it's very extreme. Um, and so, I'm still in one of those. It hasn't gone away. but I've been able to take a bit of a step back from kind of, oh, your life is hate groups 24/7. And so I did take a week off recently, so that was nice.
A whole week. Watch out.
You know, the thing about being a freelance journalist is you can't really take any time off because it's just lack of income. So
I would love this. Your next book should be called Defiant and Delicious. I think that's
yeah, right. I wish I was a good enough cook to write a cookbook, but I'm not quite there yet. But I do love writing about food. In fact, like before I started writing about the far right, most of my big essays were about soup. But you know, soup and Nazis.
There's another one, right?
Those are my subject matter expertise fields. Yeah, I mean, just to answer your question about what I found surprising, I think because I had already done a lot of looking into the movement, I didn't find there was little that like shocked or surprised me. You know, I wasn't coming in blind. It was more like things that were really driven home to me. And one was just like how global the movement is. I think I mean, the book is about white supremacy in America, but you know, I was in these chat rooms and you had people from Europe, you had people from Australasia, right? You know, Australia and New Zealand. And they really are speaking to each other via the internet across the whole world. They see themselves as a pan-global movement, and I think that's worth paying attention to, you know?
So I want to get to a couple of comments from our viewers. Carol, who is actually our community outreach coordinator here at the center, she says, "Courage takes my breath away." And then Andrew says, "I deeply appreciate Talia's willingness not to play to the soft center, to call monsters, albeit human, monsters. So many milquetoast liberals don't want to be seen as alarmists, and so many class reductionist left don't want to judge the blessed white working class. Talia sees the threat and demands the reader to take up the charge of dealing with this threat."
Thank you. And when it comes to the moderate viewpoint, I think one of the ways in which I really differ from a lot of folks, and something that was like a point of contention for some reviewers, was where I say one of the people, like the groups of people that I got increasingly angry at in this very rageful year, were the moderates who basically say, why deplatform Nazis? You know, if we can't defeat them on the merits in the free marketplace of ideas, then aren't we lost anyway? And like, we should let them speak on college campuses, and we should let them march, and just stay home, or you're giving them what they want. And I really have so little patience. And then the more I studied the movement, the less patience I had for that viewpoint. I'm like, no, it's an infestation of cockroaches. It's poison gas in a room. You don't respond with apathy or attempt to coexist, because what you're really saying when you say defeat them in the marketplace of ideas, don't fight them, don't try to run them out of town, is like, I don't care about Jewish and trans and Muslim, you know, people, and you know, gay people, and anyone that they target. My sort of smug entitlement to a sense of tolerance is more important than the lives of the people who are threatened by the metastasis of this ideology. I really find it to be a smug and ultimately abhorrent argument. Because when you have poison coursing through your marketplace, you know, when you have poisoned goods being handed out in pretty packages, things really break down. And I really operate on a pretty zero tolerance for Nazis policy, and I wish that wasn't so controversial in the world of moderate centrism.
Yeah, I you know, you find so many folks who want to make peace with folks that have shown themselves to be the enemy of that very concept of peace. So how do how do you align yourself with that? How do you find that that's what you started with? That was your baseline tonight when you came on the show. You were furious and you told us why, and it was very valid reasons, all that's going on. And, you know, that there's still so many folks following Trump, not only, you know, as you say, the stereotypical person that we think of. It's people from all walks of life, all socioeconomic platforms, all, and, you know, and now there are over, what was it, over 100 folks who signed on to this Texas lawsuit, representatives. It's just beyond the pale. So you were saying, how do we bring ourselves back? Like, how do we, you know, beyond cooking, beyond finding, you know, community, how do we really bring ourselves back? You know, it's knowledge first and foremost, right? It's making sure we make ourselves aware of what's happening. But then beyond that, how do we work toward something that is actualizing a solution?
I think we have to operate from an ethos of community defense, and from an ethos of zero tolerance for Nazism and its fellow travelers. We have to operate via defending our communities, outing these individuals, naming names, fighting back. We have to continue to pressure social media companies, you know, and regulators to stifle hate speech and make it harder for this movement to recruit. We have to take it upon ourselves to make our towns Nazi-free zones and do the research that entails on a hyper-local level. We have to reimpose the social cost of bigotry that's eroded so hard over the last 5 years. To say, no, that's not acceptable. You're not welcome in my life if you speak and act this way. You're not welcome in my town if you speak and act this way. And to do our best to enforce that uncompromisingly. I think that, you know, it's time to rise up and reclaim with equal ardor that which is sought to be taken away from us. And, you know, I believe in an ethos of more than just tolerating difference, but embracing difference with fierce love. And part of fierce love is combating the threats to that which you love. And so I think it's time to fight back. Each and every one of us, it's incumbent on us to fight back.
To call it out, to call any name names. And I think that I love what you said, and I want to carry this with us to our community. The social cost of bigotry. I think that's just such a wonderful phrasing of it, and such a beautiful idea. To not let anyone get away with any more shit. It's time to, you know, as you said, name names, to call it out every single time you see it.
And if Nazis are marching in your town, you show up and you outnumber them and you run them out and make sure they know your town isn't a safe haven for their swastika shit. You know?
And what you did alone, individually, you know, for this year, for this deep, dark journey that you took, that is inspiration enough. It has to be for so many folks. And again, you know, for those of you joining us, this is the book we're talking about, Culture Warlords, My Journey into the Dark Web of White Supremacy, by our inspirational guest, Talia Lavin, who went undercover to expose this and now is such a strong voice. And this is what we need to listen to. This is what we need to hear. These difficult truths, the fact that we all need to no longer, and that was the second part of what you said, which really got me, was it's no longer about tolerance. It's about fierce love. It's about not letting a friend, a family member, elected official, especially anybody that we cross paths with in any way, whether it's in person, virtually, or any other way that we have, not to let them sidestep any sort of racism, any sort of bigotry, any sort of Nazism, and call it for what it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and appreciate the chance to support the Rustin Center and all the things you do, you know, for the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you so much.
It was our pleasure. Thank you for being with us. It really an inspiration, and we really appreciate you being with us. And have a really good Hanukkah. Thanks for taking the time with us tonight.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah. Okay, take care.
Be well.
Bye.
So that is Talia Lavin, everybody, wonderful author of this book, Culture Warlords, My Journey into the Dark Web of White Supremacy. As I said, our wonderful volunteers in the comment section giving you a link to our bookshop.org. There it is right there on your screens. Talia mentioned that it's back order right now, but you can order it and it will be delivered when it comes into stock. But also support your local bookstores. Here in Princeton, we are huge fans of Labyrinth Books, which is one of the best independent bookstores in the country. They are wonderful and have done great work with us in the past at the center, so we're big supporters. So we recommend highly you purchasing this book for a friend, for a family member, for an enemy who will become a friend. And you know, one of the most wonderful things you can do is actually call your local library and make sure your local library has a copy on their shelves. Because although we would really appreciate you all supporting our guest and buying the book, we know that many of you, especially these days, don't have the money to buy all the books that we wish we could. So libraries are really great supporters of people who don't have the means to buy the books and need to be exposed to these ideas, to these authors, to these inspirational stories. So you call your local library, say, hey, do you have a copy of Culture Warlords? And if they say, you know what, we don't, you say, please, as a patron, I highly recommend it. And they will get a copy, and then your local library will be best suited to serve your community. And speaking of serving the community, thank you so much for being with us tonight, for sharing community with us tonight. Be with us every night. We're here at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We have extraordinary guests every night, whether they're beautiful authors like Talia, poets like last night with Maggie Smith, or musicians like Michael Penn tomorrow night, or just inspirational community members. We always have wonderful community building conversations. So until tomorrow night, thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. And please be good to each other. Be good to your families, chosen or otherwise. And especially these days, be good to yourselves. You deserve it. So much love and respect, y'all, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night. Thanks for being with us at the Power Hour.
We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.